The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Let's go! What time is it? Game time! Game time! It's gonna be a football game tonight now, no doubt. It's gonna be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
9. Rushing forward, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
Alabama back on top of the college football world. Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to another Football to the Max, where we will be talking about NFL Week 13, talking about College Football Championship Week, of course, happening on Friday and Saturday, and also talking about the Thursday Night Football game that ended a few hours ago, and also a few tidbits of news and notes here. So, guys, anything been going on since I know I was on the college show because I fell asleep. I was on the NFL show, but anything been going on these past few days here since the last time we had a show?
Man, I've been just trying to brainstorm on things to do for Elf on a Shelf for my daughter, and all I can think of is crude and annoying things to do, and I can't do those with a 3-year-old, so I'm kind of back at step 1.
I don't know. Do you have any?
No, I'm trying to figure out some Elf on the Shelf things to do to Gary's daughter as well, and I can't come up with anything.
Yeah, see, all I can think of is, when she wakes up in the morning, where's my elf? And he's sitting on the porch with a cigarette. Oh, there he is. That's the only thing I can think of. I can't think of anything. So, yeah, that's about it. So I'll have to work on that. Me and my wife are having a competition and trying to one-up each other, and I think she's already ahead.
Maybe I need to do that with a nice Flareon. Just hide it in places.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
Yeah. So, enough about, you'll be hearing a lot of our Christmas stories as the weeks go by, so apologize for that if you don't care. But we'll try to keep it under a few minutes or so. So, we'll start off with a few things. One of them just kind of broke tonight, actually, after the game, and then one of them has been something that's kind of been brewing this week, and it'll delve into, first game we got to talk about here. So, kind of like during the game in the fourth quarter, around there, a report came out from Sports Illustrated that the Chargers are considering exercising the Los Angeles option. And they only received a 43% approval on Measure C in November, which would have been the stadium plan for the $1.8 billion plan, and would raise hotel taxes for 12.5% to 16.5%, and would secure $1.15 billion in bonds to help pay for the stadium. So they did not get the 2/3 vote that they needed. I was talking to our resident Chargers fan, Rochelle, and she thinks that it's a bunch of bogus, and then she also brings up this is a writer for something in San Diego. The Chargers knew that Measure C wouldn't pass, so why spend all that money unless it was set the table for something else? There's really only two big reasons keeping me from jumping to that same conclusion of why would the mayor jump on board the Titanic when it was under the sea, if not to start the next phase of a San Diego stadium plan. So what I know, Randy, before this was even in place, you said pretty much they're bound for Los Angeles. Does this
Yes,
make you think that this is still happening?
it's definitely happening. It's getting closer and closer. I know the deadline was supposed to be coming up here soon, wasn't it? Uh, I just think it's the logical thing. Obviously, honestly, I would rather them stay in San Diego. It's better to spread out the NFL teams, and having two teams in one city, especially a city like Los Angeles where, let's be honest, no one really cares about football. They're going to care about it for a little bit because it's going to be the new thing back in town, but give it a couple of years, and especially if the teams aren't doing that great, they're not going to care. They're not going to come. It's basically going to be a side attraction. But it helps with that new stadium they're building, with even more events that's going to go there. So it just makes the most financial sense. But as far as NFL fandom, I don't like to see teams move, and we're going to see it here with the Chargers. We're going to see it with the Raiders. A lot of changes are incoming here for some West Coast NFL teams.
So you don't think that stadium plan that they're proposing in Oakland is going to go? You think they'll just wind up going to Las Vegas anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stadium thing is nice, but they should have done it a long time ago. How long have they been stuck playing in a baseball stadium?
What,
forever.
30 years? It's the anniversary of it, just this year, right? Of whatever the year is.
It's awful.
50 years or something? It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I mean, you can't keep playing in a stadium like that. And not only that, Las Vegas, it's the glitz, it's the glamour, it's got everything that, I think that ownership wants. And, it's going to be a 3-ring circus, but that's kind of what they want to do. They kind of want to be a part of that atmosphere. They got a fan base there in Las Vegas. So, I mean, I think that move is pretty much guaranteed. The San Diego one, I really feel like the Chargers are really honestly out the door. I don't want that. I mean, kind of what Randy was saying, I want there to be a more spread out league. I mean, we already got New York having 2 teams. We really don't need to have, another city have conjoined teams. I think, give them to Sacramento, give them to somewhere else. I want LA. We don't want 2 LA teams.
Yeah, no, you don't. Having 2 conjoined teams in one stadium is never really a great thing. You want them to have their own stadium. You want them to have their own thing that they're going to. And leaving San Diego would suck just from knowing, not just for show, but other people there. There are people that do care about the Chargers, and it would suck to see them leave. And then to go to Los Angeles, which is a city that you don't even know if they really care about the Rams, let alone to now care about the Chargers too. It's just that's a lot to go through, And then you're losing your Raiders to Las Vegas. That's enough,
Mm-hmm.
So we move on from this to one bit of news that was percolating from earlier this week. After 10 years of having Thursday Night Football every week, basically since the beginning of, they've always had it on Thanksgiving, but basically since the beginning of NFL Network, they brought about the Thursday Night Football thing. There are reports from Pro Football Talk about the NFL considering, after the 2017 season, because they have a 2-year deal with NBC and CBS right now, of possibly even canceling the Thursday night slate. There was talk at one point of maybe moving it to Friday nights or something like that, but I just don't see how that's going to work. What do you guys think? I mean, the NFL did come out and say, look, anything to the contrary of us being behind, we are behind Thursday Night Football. Anything that says the contrary is unfounded. Says the league. Of course, they're not going to come out and confirm that either, because, it's going to put CBS and NBC on high alert when they've got a whole year and a half of this still. But what do you guys think? I mean, obviously we have all talked about or discussed in various ways for Thursday Night Football, and we got to talk about another game here about it, but think about this logistically. Could they move it, or is it just one of these things where you just need to cancel it?
Well, competition-wise, it would be smart to cancel it, but financially, it's not ever going away. I would be completely shocked if they do not renew a contract with CBS or NBC or both when this deal comes down, just for the pure financial setup of it. I was listening to Mike and Mike in the morning, and Mike Greenberg came up with what I think is the perfect idea for this, and that is bring back 2 bye weeks. And everyone has the bye week before they play the Thursday night game. So that takes away the short rest. That takes away the health risk. That, not only do you get that extra, now you get 2 bye weeks that, rest your body, but that Thursday game kind of adds as 2 bye weeks right there. All you do is extend it a week, whether it's you start the season 1 week earlier or later. It just allows you to spread out the season just a little bit longer. It'll be a little bit less physical on the body. It's much better than having to play a couple games in a few day period. And we see baseball doing that right now. They extended the season days wise, but not game wise, just kind of giving some extra days off. And I think, honestly, that would work. We saw a game tonight, which we'll talk about, which, if you were really into offense, it wasn't that great. But it was 2 teams that were playing.
But they had a whole week off, though.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. But
so what's the excuse?
They played. There's no excuse. It was a defensive game, and that was fine. But it wasn't ugly football like we've seen. That's what I'm saying. I think tonight shows that with the whole week off, Thursday night games are fine. It's just the fact that they usually have a couple days off. Minnesota is an awful offense. So I was never going into this game thinking it was going to be a lot of points. If any team was going to score more than 20 points, it was going to be Dallas, and if they did, they were going to completely just destroy Minnesota. That's how that game was set up, whether you play that on Thursday, Sunday, or Monday. I'm just saying that both teams played pretty well. We didn't have any crazy injuries out of it, and it's because they had the full week off. So you put a second bye week in there. You always set one of those bye weeks before when a team has to play on Thursday. Be some logistics in there that are going to be difficult. Maybe you don't have a Thursday night game, weeks 2 and 3 or weeks 16 and 17 because no one's going to have byes that early or that late. And you just kind of go from there. But Thursday night games are not going to go away.
Yeah, and I understand, with the NFL, if I don't believe they're going to go either, but I think if the NFL was having reservations, if the numbers weren't to where they wanted them to be, I definitely don't think moving a game from Thursday to Friday is going to help, because Friday is even worse. You've got people who are definitely going to be doing other things rather than watching football. Yes, sure, it may be an important thing for some people, but there are going to be a lot of people, especially, men and women who have spouses that may not care about football, who will be telling them, no, we're going to Aspen. I'm sorry. Or, we're going to go to Nashville or something like that. We're not going to sit here and watch a game and leave Saturday. We're going to leave on Friday.
You got the people that go watch the high school games. That's probably not going to stop them from doing that either.
Exactly. So. And you got to call it. You can't do it on Saturday because of college. You can't cut into the college. ESPN's going to have a huge problem with that.
Oh, no. There's no way on earth they could do it on Saturday. No way.
Yeah, so even all major networks would have a problem with that as well. So I'm just saying that this can't move to any other day. You've already got Monday Night Football. So this is stuck into this place, and the only other option would be to cancel it, and that's not going to happen. And, at the end of the day, I think that, this works. And maybe, the NFL is not happy with some of this stuff that's going on, but I think Randy had a great solution he was talking about, and I think they can work things out. I mean, honestly, I get it. Impact Wrestling's on the same night. That takes tons of viewers away from the football. I'm kidding, but I'm joking. But
Gary just made a reference to like 2 people got. So
exactly. See, that's how bad that show is. But really, what else is on Thursday nights? There's a few great shows that possibly come on Thursdays. But when I look at my DVR, there's nothing super spectacular that I record on Thursdays. So it's a perfect spot. Just stick with it.
I'm trying to rack my brain of what I record on Thursdays. and I really can't think of it right now. But
And it's not that important then, because you would remember,
well,
besides,
especially now because they don't want to go against. I think whatchamacallit, Big Bang Theory did move back,
Mhm.
but at one point they moved it so that it wouldn't compete with Thursday Night Football because they didn't want to deal with like nobody watching their show, their new show that they just put out there or whatever. But like CBS for the most part, other than that, kind of moved everything else around. So, that's what's interesting is I don't think you really have a whole lot, at least on the networks, that kind of competes. Almost everything kind of is Monday through Wednesday now, or Sunday through Wednesday now.
Mm-hmm.
And not like that matters anymore. The way people watch TV is so different these days. Just because a show airs on Monday, I don't think there's a single show I watch that's not a sporting event that I watch live. Any of the TV shows that the girlfriend I watch, any of the wrestling shows that I'm into, if it's not a live sporting event, I'm not watching it live.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%.
What's interesting too is that I agree with you. I had to argue with my mom today about how she wanted to put on. Comcast wanted for me to do auto pay with the bill, which I was like, oh hell no, because money comes in different times. I'm not always paying you on the 13th or whatever. You give me 10 days to pay this bill, I'm gonna make you wait the 10 days if I have to sometimes. But anyway, they want you to do the auto pay and something else, and they'll give you like their next package. Because right now we have like the most basic whatever package, because I have PlayStation Vue, so there's no point in me having any kind of package with the cable and having PlayStation Vue as well. So they wanted to up the package, the next thing, and I was like, nobody watches other than you and your novellas, and even then you watch those on DVR. Nobody watches shows live anymore unless it's sports. So what's the point of having the Disney Channel for her? For Anaya, she can watch the Disney Channel shows on her tablet. I mean, so it's just like it's so crazy. And then we keep hearing about ESPN lost like 555,000 subscribers to more, and other stations are losing subscribers. NBC Sports Network lost like over 600,000. So even sporting events are starting to get cut by the fact that you have like everything that airs on ESPN also airs on Watch ESPN and ESPN3 and. The ABC game always airs on ESPN3, so you don't even have to watch it on ABC. So it's like, I wonder if we'll go back to like they'll try to force it to where. Do you think we'll ever get to that where they'll get so desperate they'll just take everything off the phones and the internet and whatever and try to make it all analog again just to get people to watch it on TV? Or do you think that they know that ship has sailed and?
You can't do that.
Well, that ship is so much sailed. I mean, if you look at your Xbox or your PlayStations, all of these networks have apps on there to watch their shows. Some make you pay like CBS. Some like NBC are just like, we'll get the ad revenue. I have PlayStation Vue as well, which allows me to DVR all these shows that we watch. But anymore, whether it's on Hulu, and that's the other thing is they're taking their shows then off of Hulu, so they're on their own network. So now, I mean, Haley and I watch 5 or 6 different shows together, and we have to use 4 different apps to watch them. But it's not like it's that hard to switch between apps. I think these networks are understanding and adapting. And to be honest, TV the way you know it is not going to be watched anymore. Cable's dying. That cable thing it's not that way. You even see now where the Dish Network has just come out with a deal where you get the basics and then you can pick and choose like smaller packages. So it's like, okay, we understand that you don't want to buy everything and then have this crazy bill for 200 channels where you're watching 30. So here's just the basic stuff, and then you tell us what you want to add to it, and then we adjust the bill accordingly. That still is even an ancient way to look at things. It's just TV itself is very difficult, and sporting events get hurt the worst because, I mean, those are the one things that you really can't DVR because most people, you're going to get the score spoiled, And then at that point, a lot of people aren't going to want to watch it. So at that point, it's, okay, well, I'll watch it if I have time. If not, I'll just check out the highlights. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're a serious sports fan, you get alerts. And it's hard to avoid those, even if you want to, because you'll be looking at something else, and, oh, here comes that alert. Oh, damn.
And now we're at the point, because I have the Sunday ticket, and I have it hooked up to both the Xbox and the PlayStation, so it's a streaming option. And I live in a place that doesn't have the most amazing internet, but I had to turn off my notifications on my fantasy stuff because I'd be watching a game and my phone would buzz, and then I would freak out going, okay, what just happened? Knowing something that I'm watching right now, something big's going to happen because my phone is ahead of me, and it just went, this guy threw a touchdown, and the play was just about to start. So, like, you'd see the quarterback go under center, and the phone would buzz, and Haley would just go, oh, he probably just threw a touchdown, didn't he? I had to turn off notifications.
That happens to me too. I hear something on my phone, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" That means either somebody threw an interception or somebody threw a touchdown. Like, just great. So speaking of both these things, because they happen. This game with the Cowboys and the Vikings, it looked like at one point it was going to get away from the Vikings, but the Vikings kind of fought back into it. Their defense played one hell of a game again. What really let the Vikings down was their special teams. Their punter was terrible, and he kept giving the Cowboys great field position. And then the one play that turned the game, Adam Thielen gets hit and fumbles, and it's really, really close. I mean, he almost gets possession of the ball again, but it gets taken away by Kyle Wilber. The Cowboys get a short field. Des Bryant scores on a screen, and the Cowboys bust it open. They get a 17-9 lead after they've been down 9-7. Vikings fight back, but they can't get the 2-point conversion, and Bradford gets hit in the face. No call. The Cowboys win, and they go to 11-1. Bradford should have got that call, right, at least?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that the referee right next to the play came up to Bradford and said, no, you got hit on the shoulder, it just shows how terrible refereeing has been, because I don't think, unless you were standing right behind him, that you were not going to see an angle where you can tell that he got hit in the face. It's frustrating, but that's the way it is these days, where we get 97 different angles and everything's super clear to us, and maybe he was looking elsewhere at that point and just missed the hand, and then just try to go, no, not at all. It hit you in the shoulder. Don't worry about it.
There's a certain angle where you can see, like, it looks like it's both hands kind of together, and one hand does hit the shoulder, the other hand hits the face mask. So
I mean, it's disappointing, but listen, this is just how Minnesota is. That, these low-scoring defensive battles, that they're just unable to find a way to win. Like, Bradford's numbers don't look that bad, but obviously you guys were Cowboys fans, so you were obviously rooting against him, but I think anybody that had just a neutral rooting interest never looked at Sam Bradford and went, he's going to win this game for Minnesota. And it just was really interesting to me, because I spent some time today, I watched a little mini documentary that I think it was NFL.com had or something. It was on YouTube, but talking about when Tampa Bay lost 26 in a row, and they were talking about that second season after they went winless and how their defense was amazing. It was just they had nothing on offense. And obviously Minnesota is not that bad because they're 6-6, but their defense, if they had any semblance of an offense, if their running game was anywhere near decent, this team would be dominating the league. But because that offense, because they're missing Adrian Peterson, and Bradford did get thrown into a system he's not used to, and he's trying to work around that. And they just, Stephon Diggs has been banged up. They just don't have the weapons clicking on offense that you see them in these kind of games. This was the perfect situation for Minnesota, a nice low-scoring game. Prescott, again, doesn't have a very great stat line here, has some mistakes, a couple fumbles, and kept them in this game, but they just can't finish people off.
Yeah, and you make a great point about this Vikings team, and my wife, watching the game, and she just can't believe it. She's like, I thought the Cowboys were going to blow out the Vikings, and I said, well, I know, really honestly, this has proven to be what everybody keeps saying is this Vikings defense is really good, and I'm a believer, and they are an offense away from being a contender.
I think when you lose your offensive coordinator, that says a lot. I mean, Norv Turner is not just some guy.
Yeah,
well, Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Norv Turner is excellent. I mean, he's one of the best in the league when he's coaching. But not just him, but the talent that they need. Losing Adrian Peterson was, not bad at the beginning because they were winning. But all of a sudden, now you're starting to look at it and say, man, if they had a running game, they may actually be able to do something because all the pressure's on Sam Bradford. That's every game. It's Sam Bradford, win us this game. And it's not going to happen because he's, that's tough for any quarterback to do. Ask Aaron Rodgers right now how it feels not to have a running game.
And look at how many passes he threw to Charles Johnson, and the guy just didn't get it, or he overthrew him by a little bit, or the stupid play by Laquan Treadwell where he doesn't understand that he has to come back to the ball, which that really hurt them. I mean, it's not all Bradford. It's your receivers that don't, that are young, and I mean, they're inexperienced. They're having to kind of learn the system along with Bradford, and it's not good.
It's not, and like I'm saying is, I really feel like if they had, let's say they had Adrian Peterson back, let's say that they had a competent receiver on the other side that wasn't screwing up, kind of like Treadwell and Johnson. And the Diggs, they would have a contending team for the Super Bowl this year. They would be right there with Seattle, and I think everybody would be saying, Seattle, you better watch out because the Vikings are coming. I think that's the way it would be, but right now that's just not the case. And the Cowboys kind of got caught in that trap because the defense of Minnesota was really controlling this game. They weren't letting Zeke go crazy, and every time Zeke got a big run, the Cowboys' offensive line would hold or clip, or there would be some penalty that would cause that run to come back. And
Elliott would hold. I mean,
yeah, but Elliott was a big pass to Jason Witten. I'm just saying that was one of the things too we have to look at. This Cowboys offense, usually kind of overcomes these things, and this is the one game where they were stepping on their own feet this entire game, holding, causing all sorts of penalties, fumbling. We were just missing an interception from Dak Prescott. So I'm not saying that the Cowboys are heads and above this Vikings defense when it comes to their offense because I think they're pretty even matched here. But I want to say that Dallas caused a lot of their own heartache here, and Minnesota, they had plenty of opportunities because of the fact that defense was fighting for them. I really feel that way. This team did not want to lose this game. The Vikings knew their playoff dreams were basically almost dashed if they lost this game because they know the future is not easy. So I think this Vikings team played their heart out. And I think I'm a Cowboys fan, I have to admit that, but I think it sucks for them for the game to end like that. And I'm waiting tomorrow to wake up and, turn on some sports and watch Stephen A. Smith, go on a tirade about how the Cowboys are evil because, they ended the game like that. But it's just the way it works sometimes. And I totally agree. Minnesota, you deserved another shot. You did. But, it's the way it works out. We have the same things on our side.
Sometimes those things work out that way. It's sad. I hated it. I thought they had given the call. That's why I wonder, too, if maybe when it comes to like the last play of the game or something like that where it's a definitive, that this is game changing. Why can't you challenge that there was a penalty on that play? I mean, not holding whether it's like there's holding on every play or whatever, but that specific moment that he is, like the getting whacked in the head. Or like there was a pass interference that was, obvious or whatever. why couldn't you be able to challenge for that penalty so that you get one more shot? And you hope that, obviously you hope it doesn't turn into, okay, well, we got now like 5 straight plays that have penalties, but whatever.
Well, you kind of said, your argument against yourself in what you just explained, where it's like, well, not holding. So exactly what penalties could you be able to do?
Well, like
how late in the game? Well, yeah, but it's one of those where those become a bit judgmental. Pass interference would be completely judgmental when you can slow it down like that. So that's just a slippery slope. Obviously, yes, we all agree that there should have been another play, but don't get a false start before that and push yourself back 5 yards. Again, yes, it would have been nice for the call to have been correct, but I would never put instant replay on any of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of fans, especially Vikings fans right now, are wanting that, and trust me, I would too. If I was on the flip side of that, and it was a blatant hand to Dak's face or anything like that, I would be pissed, but I would have to get over it eventually. But I think that you are judging the credibility of the referees at that point, and the referees in the booth may still call the play on the field the same because they don't want to basically screw with their friends and say, oh man, they screwed up, I'm going to protect them. That happens. So I don't know. I don't know if it really changes a whole lot of things, even though we'd want it to. Sometimes you kind of get the same stuff. That brings me to a question really quick, and I do want to finish out this game, but I got a question really quick because we didn't talk about it in the news, but there were some interesting things coming out that the NFL is looking to hire full-time refs for next year, like completely full-time refs. Do you think that's going to solve it?
Thank God.
Do you? I just wonder. As a full-time refs, are we going to get the same? Are we getting a new group of guys? Because there's a lot of referees that have really good jobs that don't want to work full-time.
Well, then they can go on.
Don't work. Yeah. Me personally, if you're getting paid this is now your job. Your entire job is to study this rule book and know and study the film just like the players do and know what you're supposed to be looking for and whatever, and then you still get calls wrong constantly, then you know what? You get penalized for it. But, right now, you feel bad for them because they're trying to do other things and then also do this in their spare time or whatever time they're given for this. But it's just how can you expect them to be spot on all the time if you're not giving them letting them have their full attention? But what if the players had to have another job and they just came in one day a week and tried to learn something and then went to play?
Then we'd be back in the 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, absolutely. Just the not only where it's not another distraction going on, but just the fact that they would have the entire off season to have their own camps, to have their own practices and study films and learn together and get better. The fact that they could just go, they could just take all these referees and send them to different practices and work on different calls while the teams scrimmage and all of that, it would just help. It's just more experience for them that they can get in the off season that they don't now because they're not paid full time. So they do have to go off and do other things, and it just would make things better.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask that real quick and kind of mention that really fast. But the other thing I want to ask about this game for both teams, what have we learned? Did we learn anything new from either of these teams, or do we come out of this game just saying these teams are who they are?
To start with the Vikings, I think they're exactly who I thought they were. Great defense, an offense that just isn't in sync right now. And Sean and I, at the beginning of the season, argued about the trade with Sam Bradford. And no, I am not sitting here saying any of this is Sam Bradford's fault. But honestly, keep the draft picks that you had, have Sean Hill, who has been a part of this team, and just go from there. Because, yes, Sam Bradford's been fine, but there's just no cohesiveness going on, and it's just put too much burden on. Again, he's been playing fine. But for what you gave up for him, this offense should be more than fine, and it's unfair to Bradford and the rest of this offense to go, okay, with a week before the regular season, we're changing everything up. So to me, they're exactly who I thought they were. Dallas, is very interesting because I'm not one of those people that thinks, oh, it'd be great if you lost, but at some point, they have started to struggle here a little bit, closing teams out. The offense has been, a little rough. And if you are going to lose, do it now before the playoffs start.
I'm not one of those. Next week, just not next week.
I'm not one of those guys going, oh, if they don't lose here in the regular season, they're screwed in the playoffs. I'm not one of those, but it's like you are really, walking that tightrope right now, and they really need to clean things up. I will say that, call it cockiness, call it confidence, whichever way you want, but they've gotten a bit more of a swagger that you kind of saw in that especially last week in that Washington game that you haven't seen in this team, and I'm not sure if that's good or not.
Well, I mean, the offense was fine last week. I think it's all about you're playing a Minnesota defense that is ready for you and that knows exactly who to take away, and they have the corners that can match up with your guys, and aside from the 150-something yard play to Dez. And it's exactly what they did all game. Their safeties are allowed to kind of sit in the box and keep Ezekiel Elliott at bay. Then when Dak started running, they kept the guy there. I mean, I don't know that you can say they showed a blueprint because not everybody has those type of players. It's just, there's going to be a couple of defenses that are going to be able to do that to the Cowboys all year. Maybe the Giants, just the way they've been able to play, they have the pass rush that the Vikings do. Maybe not as dynamic, but they have it. That's where I'm saying, if you want to say have them lose, just not to the Giants where it's going to affect your division standing and all that kind of stuff. But if you need to lose to the Lions or you need to lose to whoever, the Tampa Bay or whatever, I guess is fine. But I don't subscribe to that theory either. They have learned every week through these wins. What did they have to do against Minnesota they didn't have to do last week against Washington? It's a different games every time. You learn through that as well. You don't have to lose in order to, oh man, we lost. It sucks. Now we know what it feels like to lose. It's like you still have that same mentality. So for that same token, Alabama should just lose one game then. No. You learn by getting into those tough situations and still overcoming them, just like you do in the playoffs and like anything else. I don't think they have to lose at all.
Yeah, and you make a great point. And Michael Irvin actually had said, actually during the Washington week, said that, they should have lost against Washington just so they could learn a lesson. That way they can kind of understand this is the feeling of loss and start back up and get their motivation reset. And he actually said tonight, following the game, I kind of watched the post game, and he said this is kind of that same feeling. Like they didn't lose, but they got the feeling of we just got punched in the mouth. We better start up in our game, or we could lose games. And so I don't know. I don't know if that remotivates them or not, but it's an interesting dot. And I think. Trust me, I haven't been on this side of the coin in a long time where a team goes this far. They're not undefeated, but it feels like it because they haven't lost since week one. And you kind of get that feeling of, man, I don't want to lose.
3 games in 12 days. That's not a joke.
No, it's not. It's not. And Minnesota had the same thing. You can't say that Minnesota didn't have I'm just saying, from the Cowboys' point of view, everybody feels like you got to lose that way that you don't have that in the playoffs. You keep thinking.
The Cowboys would have lost if they would have played any kind of if they would have played a team that had better offense than Minnesota. If they would have played Washington this week, and Washington had that good of a defense, they would have lost.
Oh yeah,
no doubt. But that's just how it is. It's who you're playing, the chances you're afforded. The Cowboys had won 4 games without forcing a turnover. What did they get this week? They got a turnover. What happened? They won. It happens. This is sometimes, when you have special seasons, this kind of thing happens. So and now all they got to do is win 2 out of the next 4 or whatever it is, and I think they have home field advantage sewn up. So you could look at it that way. You never know if they might let Tony Romo get on the field for one of these or something. It'll be interesting what they decide to do.
Getting ready to get in that Jets uniform.
Oh God.
I hate you, Kerry. Actually, Tony Romo probably hates you more than me.
Probably does.
Well, we move on from the Thursday game here, and we go on to the other games on the slate. It's interesting that NBC gets like two big games like this. They get the big Sunday night game as well with the Seahawks and Panthers. I can't believe the Panthers are still in playoff contention technically, even though they were all talking about it. I thought they were done after last week, but I guess if certain things fall their way, it would be that way. But so we get on with the 1 o'clock slate here. Two interesting games to get on to. Let's start with the Falcons at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs got that big win, and the Falcons usually play much better at home with their high-flying offense. What do you think?
Yeah, they absolutely play completely different at home, and I have said all season I've been waiting for them to have that collapse. It still hasn't happened yet. They completely went out and destroyed Arizona last week at home. Kansas City has that tough Sunday night game. Now has to go on the road, but I still do not buy into Atlanta at all. I still am waiting for that shoe to drop until maybe they win this game. Maybe I'll start buying in. I know I'm stubborn about this, but I have Kansas City winning on the road. They just seem overall like the better team. Their defense will probably slow them down enough. And honestly, Alex Smith showed some stuff in that second half where if it turned into a little bit of a shootout, he could keep up. Now, if it's Atlanta scoring every drive, this thing's over. But I think Alex can put up enough points against that Falcons defense, which it hasn't been that great, to keep it close at the end. And then I like that team to come out on top. So give me the Chiefs.
And it's funny because, I was prepared to sit here and make a similar argument because I really thought that everybody else would be going with the Falcons because of this high-flying offense. But, I think that there are some points when Matt Ryan's not so good, and that's when he gets pressured and when he faces some difficult defenses at times. And I think this is going to be one of those difficult defenses that are going to give him all sorts of looks. They're going to kind of make things confusing. And I think that, he may make a few mistakes because he feels a little more confident than he possibly should. So I'm going to go Kansas City here as well.
And this is a hard one to be on the road in Atlanta. I think definitely the Chiefs, they have the guys to match up with Julio Jones to be able to stop Devontae Freeman. It's going to be hard, but I think at the end of the day, Atlanta knows they got to have some of these games, and especially if you're facing a playoff caliber team here, is where you got to show your stuff. I think the Falcons wind up winning this here. Another game that totally dependent on a team that plays very, very well at home, the New Orleans Saints, in the Superdome against the Detroit Lions, who are also sharing that second spot there in the for the playoff contention right now, both at 7-4 with the Falcons. What do you think here? I got to go with the Saints just because at home, man, it's so hard to pick against them.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to know if anyone's asked Hulk Hogan which stadium they're playing at this week.
Yeah, the Pontiac Silverdome, right? Oh, yeah.
He's still waiting so we can get into WrestleMania.
Yeah. He's like, "Where's my ticket to Florida?" Anyway, but no, seriously, I think right now, looking at this, Detroit team, I think that they had a great Thanksgiving. They've done great in the fourth quarter. But that's the thing is, they've got to be around in the fourth quarter, and I'm just afraid that defense is not good enough to hold Drew Brees back, because Drew Brees can exploit you, and I think that's exactly what happens in this game. I'm going to go Saints.
Yeah, I'm going Saints as well. Obviously, I think this is a shootout. We talked about it a lot in the fantasy podcast, all the different fantasy options you can get in this game. I do think it's within 7 points because that's just what the Lions like to do. But Drew Brees has some fourth quarter magic in his history as well. So I'm going to take New Orleans to win this one at home.
Well, we could probably go through both of these two games next really quickly here. Even without Gronk, the Patriots at home. Let's take out the broom and just sweep away the Rams, right?
Correct.
And then the Broncos going into Jacksonville. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the Jacksonville's chances here.
Even with Trevor Siemian banged up or whatever, I think they'll be okay.
Anything to dispute the contrary there?
No, the Jaguars have even lost the junk time title. They're just terrible.
They're just the terrible Jaguars.
Yeah.
Your favorite quarterback, he's going to go in and play the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. I don't really like his chances either.
I like his chances to stand on the sidelines and watch how a real quarterback plays the game. This is honestly a little interesting to me just for the fact that Houston does have a good defense. And, you can run on Houston, but it's tougher to throw on, and Green Bay doesn't know how to run the ball, and that's all they do is throw. So that side of the ball is more interesting to me. Green Bay's defense is rough too, so honestly, I think the Great Mighty Pooh might put up some decent numbers and keep this close, but I don't think Houston's going to win this game at all. Give me the Packers.
This is a tough one because, I'm not really impressed with the Packers defense at all. We saw Aaron Rodgers make magic happen against Philadelphia last week with a pretty good defense. I mean, Philadelphia's defense is nothing to shy at. And I think the same goes with Houston. But it's so hard for me to go against Aaron Rodgers because the Great Mighty Pooh, I just don't see it happening. Yeah, I'll go Green Bay.
I love the fact that I've gotten at the stick on this podcast. It's my proudest moment in almost 2 years of being on this podcast with you guys.
Wow. And we're talking about shit, people.
As a Jets fan, I am an expert at shit.
He said it. Not us. Green Bay should win this game. Devontae Adams has been absolute fire. Maybe use Christian Michael a little bit more. He actually knows how to run. That could help you. Whether he knows the playbook or not, just give him the damn ball.
He hasn't been cut yet.
No?
Or wait.
No, I just figured it would have happened by now.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Yeah, I know. But you know what's going to happen? If they cut him, then Seattle's going to get him, and he's going to run for 500 yards for the season's over.
Again, to Seattle. So Packers all the way around. We'll go to Cincinnati, where Paul Brown Stadium, the Bengals will host the Eagles. I'm sorry, Cincinnati, but you have no one for Andy Dalton to throw the ball to. And Jeremy Hill just ain't cutting it by himself. Eagles all the way in this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, the Eagles kind of had a disappointing loss against Green Bay. I think they bounce back.
Yeah, I think you're wrong, actually, in this one. Yes, no A.J. Green. Jeremy Hill was actually fine out of the backfield last week, especially in the passing game. It actually surprised me, and I'm a Jeremy Hill fan. I think Eifert will be fine. I think Boyd will be okay. Listen, the Bengals are in just over their head. Everything is falling apart here. Marvin Jones most likely going to get fired at the end of the season, you would think. But I have started to learn that the Eagles kind of tricked us at the beginning of the year, starting out 3-0. Their defense is still great. Wentz is fine. But who does he have to throw the ball to? Ryan Matthews most likely out of this game. Jordan Matthews most likely out of this game. Nelson Aguilar has been benched for being god-awful. So it's not like they have much weaponry either. So I'm going to take the home team. I'm going to take the Bengals in a low-scoring, ugly affair.
Fair enough. I just don't. I
if
don't
we're
believe
going
in
that
Andy
way, I'd
Dalton.
rather take the better defense than the low-scoring, ugly affair.
I fear Andy Dalton throwing silly interceptions.
Well, it's not like Carson Wentz won't throw those two. So.
But he's less of a risk.
Well, let's get the silly game out of the way because, I don't know if I want to watch if you're watching this,
You're a fantasy owner.
Lord have pity on you. The 49ers going into Chicago to take on Matt Barkley and the Chicago Bears. Look, Colin Kaepernick might actually run all over this team, but I don't know. That's about it.
I actually like Matt Barkley. I think he's a decent enough quarterback. Again, he is playing for a job in the NFL, and his numbers were fine last week. They would have been way better if anybody on that team realized that somebody was throwing it at them instead of around them like they're used to with Jay Cutler and didn't know what to do with their hands. It's just embarrassing what the wide receivers did last week. Honestly, I would rather watch this game than what we just talked about with the Eagles and Bengals. I think this is going to be a more offensive battle. Fantasy-wise, there's a lot of interesting options here that we broke down a lot of on the fantasy podcast between Kaepernick and Howard and a few of these wide receivers that if you're desperate, this could be one of those really interesting first 1 to 30 wins kind of games. Again, I like Matt Barkley. I think he could end up being the Bears quarterback going forward. So I'm going to take Chicago here.
It's interesting, and I think you've got two teams who have struggled so much, but now they're more evenly matched, and they both have a shot at getting a win here. I look at this, and Matt Barkley is really working hard to become a starting quarterback on a full-time basis, not just a, hey, I'm filling in role. And then you got Colin Kaepernick on the other side, who's been really amazing, doing great numbers on fantasy, but who's more concerned about being a political activist. So who's going to win? I still say the political activist wins because I think he finds a way to do it. So 49ers for me.
Fidel Castro comes from the dead, and, whatever. 49ers win this thing. I think Matt Barkley got to show stuff because the Titans put the foot off the gas. Last week, Colin Kaepernick only knows putting foot on gas. That's about it.
Well, that's fine. They took the foot off the gas and started playing like how the 49ers play defense, period.
So we have the Miami Dolphins, who've been on this big win streak. They're also at 7-4, taking on the 6-5 Ravens at home. You know what? I think the buck is going to stop here for the Dolphins. The Ravens have a terrific run defense. They're going to stop Jay Ajayi. I think they're going to get to Ryan Tannehill here, and Flacco's going to do just enough to get him a win. Maybe one of these 16-13 games or something.
Yeah, I'm with you. Listen, the Dolphins' last two games against the Rams and 49ers have been far too close for a team that wants to be a contender. How they were losing to the Rams by double digits going into the fourth quarter before coming back at that game. Yes, they are a surprise, and it's nice to see them winning 6 in a row and getting themselves into what would be a wild card spot right now. But going into Baltimore, it doesn't matter what the record is over there for the Ravens. They are a tough out, especially at home. And I'm with you. I think the streak ends here, and the Ravens get the win.
Yeah, I think this Ravens defense is just too strong, and I think really that's what it boils down to. I think Jay Ajayi, when he gets hot, that's a big problem for defenses. But really, I mean, this is one of the better run defenses in the league, and if Tannehill gets a little bit scared, sometimes it's bad news, and I think that's what happens here.
This should be a fun and interesting game here to start the 4 o'clock slate. The Buffalo Bills going into Oakland, where, once again, the 2 losses for Oakland have come here at the Coliseum. They have to deal with LaShawn McCoy, which this Raiders defense is absolutely horrid when it comes to actually stopping someone. If you're saying Khalil Mack after Tyrod Taylor, that should be fun. But and actually trying to stop LaShawn McCoy and the rest of whatever Tyrann Mateo is going to be doing is the other situation. Do the Bills have enough to stop Derek Carr? I think this will be a shootout. Maybe not a shootout in the sense of throwing balls everywhere, but it just in a high-scoring affair. Man. Give me the Raiders, though.
Yeah, give me the Raiders as well. Yes, they've lost both of their games are at home, but they were to the Falcons and the Chiefs. I don't put the Bills in that category. No Robert Woods in this game, so it is just Sammy Watkins basically in the receiving game. LeSean McCoy is going to have a good game, like he always does here. As you said, the Raiders don't have the best defense, so there's going to be some points put up, but I just don't see enough weapons for the Bills to really keep up with Oakland, and I think they pull away.
Yeah, that's why I look at it as well. I think that's going to become the big issue here is who can, outlast the other when it comes to offense. And Derek Carr has way too many options, and Tyrod Taylor has McCoy and Watkins. And is Watkins completely healthy? We don't know.
So you're going with the Raiders too?
I'm going Raiders.
All right, so the big 425 matchup here. The New York Giants going into Heinz Field to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is one of these I think the Steelers know they have to win. Just because you don't want to fall too far behind, especially with it. Let's say the Ravens win against the Dolphins earlier. You got to have this one to keep pace. The Giants, they would want to win here because they face the Cowboys next week and want to kind of keep in tow with the Cowboys before they have that game. You go into your own stadium down 3 whole games to the Cowboys. It's not very good if you're the Giants here. But that being said, I think you're going to see the full extent of the Steelers' passing attack. Facing Le'Veon Bell is not a joke. You can face these other running backs if you're the Giants and try to stop them. And facing Le'Veon Bell is a whole different animal, and Antonio Brown as well. I think it'll be close. Maybe one of these, 3-point, maybe touchdown at the most games, but Steelers win.
Yeah, last team with the ball wins this game. I think it's a bit more of a shootout than I think people expect. I know the Steelers secondary has been playing pretty well, but Eli Manning and this passing game have been red hot since their bye week. I think they keep it up. But I will go with the home team here in Pittsburgh, but it would not surprise me if the Giants win either. This is basically the most evenly matched game I think there is all week.
Yeah, this is going to be one that I'm looking forward to seeing because I think that, both these offenses are going to shine bright. And I feel like it's going to be a lot of fun to see Antonio Brown go crazy. I'm looking for Odell Beckham to kind of one-up him, try to at least. And I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go Steelers. I really feel like Big Ben's going to put this team on his back. He's going to work hard to really get them that win. I think the Giants, they're going to be in a great situation. But if you're asking me right now, I sometimes kind of go by quarterback play, and I think Big Ben makes less mistakes compared to Eli. I think Eli gets stressed out a little bit, throws a few picks. So.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true about Eli there. So, moving on, another NFC seen the Washington Redskins taking on the Arizona Cardinals, who are at home here. I think Kirk Cousins is going to go nuts on. Maybe not. Let me backtrack on that. I don't know that he's going to go necessarily nuts on this defense. But I think he's going to do enough here. Cardinals do play better at home. I think the Redskins still win, but this is going to be a lot closer than the Redskins' previous games have been.
Yeah, I think the Redskins win too. I think that they're coming off a disappointing loss to Dallas. I think that they want to definitely stay, up in the wild card picture. Right now, they're right in it, but they can't afford to lose too many coming out of this thing, and so I feel like that they're going to do their best. And Arizona's going to fight, trust me, but it's going to be, I think, maybe a last-minute field goal or something to win.
Both teams get their second tie. No. No.
I'm okay with
That'd
that.
be impressive, right? I mean, if I would able to call that.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm going to agree with you guys.
impressive.
I do think Washington will find a way to win this game, but it's going to be extremely tough. I don't think Kirk Cousins has that great of a game. They rely a lot on the tight end position, and that's where Arizona's defense excels. I brought this up again on the fantasy podcast, which I'm shelling every 2 seconds here. But Arizona has allowed just 23 fantasy points to tight ends all season. They shut down the tight end, and Jordan Reed's banged up on top of it. And if he's unable to go and you have Vernon Davis, I don't like him in this matchup. Yes, they have a lot of other weapons that they can go to. I'm just saying that is usually their game plan. They love the 2 tight end set over there in Washington, and Arizona plays them extremely tough. So it's going to be close. Just Arizona has been such a disappointment. I don't see them stopping now. So I'm going to take the Redskins.
Another interesting game here, and 2 teams that are fighting for their lives for playoff spots. The Buccaneers going into San Diego to take on the Chargers. Chargers cannot lose another game if they want to try to make the playoffs. I've gone back and forth on this one a lot. I think at the end of the day, the Chargers will wind up winning at home. Melvin Gordon being back here to go against the Buccaneers. I know the Buccaneers defense was pretty good against the Seahawks. No doubt they could probably be that way against the Chargers here, but this just leave it up to a feeling at the Chargers.
That's more than a feeling for me. I have the Chargers here at home. Yes, Tampa Bay has been one of, if not the most impressive teams the last 2 weeks, knocking off Kansas City on the road and then embarrassing that Seattle offense. But San Diego just puts up so many points at home. I don't think Tampa Bay is going to be able to keep up with them. I just don't see them matching up that well. I think they kind of embarrassed Seattle just because they were able to expose that that offensive line is still not right, and I just think it was an off day for Seattle. So I'm taking the Chargers here at home.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more. I think Melvin Gordon is going to have another good game too. I just want to throw that out there, and I think that I as well believe that defense of Tampa Bay may be a little bit more of a mirage from last week.
Fair enough. Sunday Night Football. Carolina Panthers, who are literally playing for their playoff lives, against the Seattle Seahawks, who really cannot afford to lose another game if they want to try to go for one of those first 2 slots.
It's the ultimate revenge game for Seattle. This is going to be so hard-hitting. It's going to just be rough. I think Seattle's – I'm not going to say headhunt because they don't do that kind of thing, but the kind of hits that they put on Rob Gronkowski a couple weeks ago guaranteed that a lot of the Panthers are going to feel the same kind of pain, especially if Cam Newton decides that he wants to be a lead blocker at any point. I guarantee you that Seattle would rather go after Cam Newton than the person with the ball. So it's going to be rough. Seattle is way different at home. That atmosphere is ridiculous. I think Seattle is just a better team right now. So I'm taking the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be rooting for Carolina, but I just think that Seahawks defense is going to be too much for Cam Newton. You got Kelvin Benjamin beat up a little bit. I just don't know that Jonathan Stewart's going to get anything going. I got to go Seahawks.
Yeah, I got to go Seahawks too. It's one of these. It's too hard to go with the Panthers on this one.
All right, and cool. That was it for the NFL, right? Cool. Let's move on.
Randy's trying not to talk about his team here. The Monday Night Football match of the Indianapolis Colts taking on the New York Fitzpatricks.
No, they canceled that game.
They said, you know what, guys, we're good. Y'all can take another week off.
Yeah, NBC has a flex schedule, so they can get a better game on Sunday night. ESPN just flexed this game away. They're going to show a rerun of some 30-30 thing. Don't worry about it, guys. It's going to be three. Sure. It's 3 hours of come on, man. That's what they're going to show.
Come on.
That'd be great if they had that much footage. Come on, man. All right, so since Randy doesn't want to talk about it, the Colts, everybody. All right, so we move on to what?
I was just gonna say, I said this last year too when they played Week 2 on Monday Night Football, and they just completely destroyed them. The secondary is not the way it was last year, though. Andrew Luck coming off the concussion. I think Fitzpatrick actually has a good game here because the Colts can't stop anybody, and it might actually be an entertaining game, but I know my team, I know what they do, and they give up games, and I'm taking the Colts. But honestly, I mean, joking aside, I do think this is going to be a competitive, interesting game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I almost want to pick the Jets. I don't have the stomach for it only because, I mean, I think that, the Colts do have an advantage when it comes to, being able to, in the passing game, I just kind of feel like that they're going to succeed. So, yeah, I got to go Colts.
All right, so let's move on to college football. It has a couple of games, and then most of them are championship games here. So, hold on, let me get out of the, it's the 2025 thing. Okay. So, we start on Friday with Western Michigan trying to stay undefeated, not only in the MAC, but overall going to 13-0 to take on Ohio at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. The line is 16.5 for Western Michigan.
For a reason that I will bring up later, I am rooting for Ohio in this game, but Western Michigan, I think, is just going to blow them out.
Western Michigan to blow them out, I agree.
Yeah, Western Michigan.
The other Friday game here is the Pac-12 championship between Colorado and Washington in Santa Clara, California, Levi Stadium. Washington at 7.5. This is hard. I think Washington wins this thing, but man, Colorado's been so good this year.
Yeah, and I love Colorado. I think that they've been a team that has kind of been pleasantly surprising to a lot of people, and man, I've just been enjoying them. But I cannot go against Washington. I just can't do it. I want to so badly, even though I don't, because I've rooted for both these teams the same. It's kind of pick them out of your two kids or something. But I'm going to go Washington.
Yeah, I'm going Washington as well. Yes, Colorado is a much improved team. I just think Washington has too much talent. However, because I love just craziness, I want to see Colorado win just for the fact that will they put a 2-loss Pac-12 champion over Michigan, who beat that champion, as well as the Big Ten champion. I just want chaos, and this is the last chance to get it. But I do think Washington's going to take care of business.
Gary?
Yeah, I said Washington. I'm going to go Washington.
All right, so the AAC championship game. Now this is funny because Navy has the Army-Navy game after this. So if Navy wins this game, the committee could technically decide to just not announce any bowls until after the Army-Navy game is over, other than the college football playoff or whatever. But
well, they almost couldn't be able to. And that's the thing that is so crazy about it is either Navy or Western Michigan is going to be that other 5 team that's going to make a bowl game. One of those big games. What is it, the Alamo Bowl? I think is where they basically been placed. But if Navy wins and Western Michigan wins, they're 2 rankings apart. And then, like you said, Navy has Army next week, so you don't know how the rankings are going to place out. So you don't know whether it's going to be Western Michigan or Navy, and it just creates this ridiculous domino effect for all of these other bowls down the line. Obviously, the playoffs would be set and all of that, but this is what I want. If Western Michigan loses... Actually, never mind. I want Western Michigan to win because I want them both to win because then we have to. If Western Michigan loses and Navy wins, it doesn't matter. Navy is going to be the top-ranked team out of all that anyways. So never mind. I want Western Michigan to win that just because I want to see craziness. I want to see committee members sweating, trying to figure out what to do. But I also think Navy's going to win the game.
Yeah, I think Navy's going to win too.
I think it's a sweep. I got Navy.
Yeah, had South Florida not lost a Temple early in the year, they would have a rematch of a game that Navy won.
Yeah, it'd been a good game.
Yes, it would have been. So let's take a little break from the championship games. Kansas State and TCU. It's in Fort Worth. I'll say TCU wins.
Yeah, I will too. TCU has been such an up and down team. I have not been able to really figure them out all season long. Yeah, and neither is Vegas actually. So I'm going to go TCU.
Yeah, TCU for me too.
All right, Oklahoma State against Oklahoma. The rivalry battle that also sort of doubles as your Big 12 championship game. That's unofficially a Big 12 championship game.
I think the Sooners have completely turned this thing around. Baker Mayfield and Dede Westbrook both
Oklahoma too.
in the Heisman talks here. Again, I don't know if you can pass Lamar Jackson. We talked about that, Gary and I talked about that. I'd like to know what Sean thinks about Lamar Jackson, if he still has a chance to win the Heisman after losing his last two games. But a huge performance by either of these two guys is the only way I can see anyone surpassing him, and they definitely could do it. I still, yes, Oklahoma State, one of their losses was on a fluke play that shouldn't have counted, but it was against a shit team. I still don't believe in that team, and I think Oklahoma is going to just put them in their place.
Yeah, Oklahoma certainly has the capability to be able to put up those big numbers because Oklahoma State can't stop anybody, and neither can Oklahoma. So this could be another Texas Tech game here, where it's like whoever has the ball last wins. And being at home and everything, I'm going to go with Oklahoma on that one.
Yeah, and I look at both teams, and Oklahoma State's been really impressive, really kind of come back from the dead for me. And, I think that, this is going to be a little bit closer of a game than people think. I think people are expecting a blowout. I'm not really expecting a blowout. I think both teams are going to play well, but in the end, Oklahoma will prevail.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a blowout either. It's going to be a close game, actually, but Oklahoma will win. West Virginia at home to take on Baylor. West Virginia to put Baylor out of their misery and for them to go 0-6 in their last 6 games.
Please do. Go Mountaineers.
Yeah, I'll go Mountaineers too.
We have the SEC championship game. Alabama just going to go put the Gators in the swamp and stuff them in there. That's where I'm thinking this is going. Alabama's just going to roll them.
You sure? This could be the biggest upset. I mean, this could be the one game that everybody looks
Florida
back and
with
says,
their no offense?
Florida.
Yeah, we heard it. Gary took Florida. Move on.
I'm just saying.
It's Alabama by 24, Gary. The line is Alabama by 24 right now.
I'm just trying to help Florida fans. That way they don't feel left out. Okay, now we'll say it. Yes, Alabama.
Alabama.
Whew. The Mountain West Championship game was really weird how they settled on this. I don't know how they decide their winner, but the top 3, Boise State, New Mexico, and Wyoming, kind of all beat each other. So at the end of the day, Wyoming is your representative against San Diego State. I kind of want San Diego State to win because I want Denell Pumphrey to kind of end things on a high note here for a season. Wyoming's been really good this year. I'll give it to San Diego State still, though. Oh, and the game is in Wyoming, I think, too.
It's going to be really interesting. I just went back to look because they played earlier this year. Wyoming won that 34-33, where San Diego State actually scored a touchdown with no time on the clock, decided to go for 2 and failed. That was on a 11-play, 99-yard drive that took 1:07. So definitely one of those crazy games that we've had this season. And maybe that's why they picked Wyoming, because they wanted to see a repeat of this game. I'm going to take Wyoming, but it's in our confidence pool thing, and it's near the bottom for me because it is as close of a game as you can get.
I'm going to go San Diego State.
All right. So, just a couple of championship games left here. Clemson taking on Virginia Tech. It's in Camping World Stadium in Orlando. Clemson by 10 is the line right now. I'll take that. Clemson by 10.
Yeah, I think Clemson for sure. And it could be by 10.
Yeah, but honestly, it could be a bit more. Clemson, I think, is just far and away the better team. They definitely, after their loss to Pitt, have kind of buckled down and gotten refocused here, going down, making sure that nothing like what happened there against the Panthers happens here. They want to be in the playoffs. I think they take care of business. They just got too much talent.
Yeah, I agree. That talent is going to push them on, and they will be victorious.
And the last one here, possibly the biggest one as far as playoff implications go, Wisconsin taking on Penn State in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. Whew. Penn State wins. They might have a legit contention because they beat Ohio State to be in there. Wisconsin, unless they absolutely blow Penn State out, which would be weird because they have had problems putting up offense this year. Because they lost to Ohio State earlier, may see themselves on the way out.
So which do you see better? A Penn State team that beats Ohio State on a fluke special teams play and lost to Michigan 49-10 and also lost to Pitt earlier this year, or a Wisconsin team that lost at Michigan 14-7 and against Ohio State 30-23.
But the committee is going to look at it as they lost to the team that's already in there. They're probably going to give it to another. Let's say Washington wins. They're probably going to give it to Washington instead.
No, absolutely. Either of these two teams. If Washington and Clemson both win, those two teams get in beat ahead of either Wisconsin or Penn State. It becomes interesting to me what they do with Ohio State since they don't win a championship. Are they going to get knocked down? Or
yeah, what's weird is they've always kind of valued the championship.
Yeah, so that's where it's going to get interesting. Or if a Clemson or Washington loses, do you put a Penn State or Wisconsin winner over Michigan for that fourth spot since Michigan beat them both? But one of these two teams will be the champion. So it's going to be very, very interesting either way. I don't think that Penn State would have the better chance of getting into the playoffs. I think Wisconsin's the better team, and that's who I'm going to pick here. But it's going to be really close. It's going to be a very entertaining game. I have it as my confidence a 1 on our pick'em because it could go either way. Penn State really, since that upset of Ohio State, has been playing on a whole different level and are going to match up well against the Badgers. But this one's going to be one of those drop down, beat down, Big Ten matches that is going to come down to the end. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Defense wins championships for a reason. I'm going Wisconsin on that end.
Yeah, I got to go with Wisconsin on that one.
So no one giving Oklahoma a chance at all if, say, they blow out Oklahoma State.
No, get a conference championship game.
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
Very, very possible that the committee that'll be their way of saying you need to get a conference championship game.
Mm-hmm. It will. I will say it will be interesting if somehow Clemson and Washington lost. Then where would that go with a Big Ten champion? What would you do with Michigan? What would you do with Ohio State? What would you do with Oklahoma? What would you do with Colorado then at that point? A lot of things can go down. Again, it's all about what you weigh head-to-head, and it's how you weigh conference championships. And since we don't have a set... this is Mike and I kind of got into this.
If Washington loses it, if Washington loses, they can put Michigan in.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's going to be completely interesting as far as does the Big Ten championship or champion jump Michigan, since they technically right now are the 5 spot, or an Ohio State, even if everything else kind of goes to form, or if Colorado wins, do you put them over a Michigan, even though Michigan beat them, but Colorado would be a conference champion? There's no guidelines of this, and that's what makes it so interesting. And college football loves this debate. I mean, they would rather have debates than straight guidelines. It's the same thing with college basketball. We kind of have an idea, but it changes every year. The bubble teams are always
you can
confused.
mess up because it's 68 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And here, I mean, it's only 4, so it's a lot finer line. But like I said, there's no exact guidelines of this. So even though we think we know what's going to go down if certain different teams win on Saturday, we really don't until Sunday. And if Western Michigan and Navy both win, we still won't know everything come Sunday. It's going to be great.
That's the truth of the matter right there. So there you go. We've gone through the college, we've gone through the NFL. Championship week starting tomorrow or later today, whatever, should be fun. And then the big games on Saturday as well. And then the slate on Sunday. So football, and more football should be fun.
Yeah, and don't forget that the playoff announcements happen, I believe, at 9:30 Pacific time, 12:30 Eastern time, a half hour before NFL gets going on Sunday. It's not on Tuesday like it's been. It's early on before the NFL slate gets going, so don't miss it.
Sure, for sure. All right, well, until that Monday night after the M&F game, we'll see you guys later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.